I love variety. Like, I love variety. I don't want to do the same thing every day at the same time over and over again. Many people like that life. They like the predictability. They like what they consider that security. And I like a little bit of risk and a lot of variety and some consistency. But it's time for some more variety. And it also is, just like I said, it's time to go to the next level. So my question to you is, how much variety do you need in your life?
You're listening to the Money and Meaning podcast, where we chronicle the search for meaning over money. I'm your host, Kanae Porter, National Certified Counselor and the world's #1 financial hypnotherapist. This podcast is the mission-driven CEO's guide to wealth without burnout, guilt, or greed. So let's get into today's show.
So let's just do it. So I'm hitting record before I know exactly what I'm going to say. And I was here and I'm also recording video just so that I can chronicle this conversation I'm about to have with you. I have a lot to say, so I'm glad you're here. All right, let's get started. I'm just going to jump right in, and I'm just going to hope that everything comes out exactly the way I like it. Now, if you don't know me very well, you might not know that that's normal for me. Are you a gut person? Or are you a head person, like a lot of the people I attract? I attract a lot of head people into my life. I don't know why. Maybe it's to balance me out. But I am a gut person through and through. Love going off my gut, and it is always right. And so that's why I'm trusting myself to just go ahead and do this episode. Now, here's how I want to start this episode. I'm going to start this episode by telling you that this is the last episode of the Money and Meaning podcast for this season. And I don't know when the next season is going to start. So you've been hearing over the last couple, well, maybe not the last 6. The last 6 episodes, we've been doing replays. And part of the reason why we were doing replays was because I was really wanting to get clear on the direction of the podcast. And what I decided was that it is time to stop focusing on the podcast and focus on the next level of the Search for Meaning Over Money series. Now, if you remember, end of 2019, so like this time, 2019, I was talking about the Search for Meaning Over Money project, and it was to start with podcast episodes. And then we're going to take some of those interviews that we do on the podcast and make them into a conversation on video, documenting video series. And then we're going to take all of that and put it in a book, but also ultimately selling that conversation to, I don't know, a Netflix or Hulu or somebody like that. That is our ultimate goal. That's what we set out to do 2 years ago, except COVID happened. And so a lot of our conversations were very COVID heavy, I guess you could say. And that was fine for the times, but we really wanted to focus on the search for meaning over money. And I still weaved it in and got to the conversation, but it's just now it's time to take it to the next level. And we've identified a production company that we would like to work with. We are still working on the budget. Yeah. When you go into these productions, they always cost more than you think. It's kind of like building a house. You think a house is going to cost a certain amount. And then you started upgrading here and there and all the things, and price of materials goes up, And so we have identified our production company, but now we're just getting the budget in place. And we want to be very generous with our budget, because if we're too conservative, then we know that we'll go over budget. And I don't like to go over budget. I like to come in under budget. And although I've never been a line producer on a TV show or film before, I know the job really well and I do it really well. And so, and I don't know if you know that my actual bachelor's degree is in television and film production. Yeah. So it kind of leads me to what I want to say to you. I do different things. I rarely do the same thing over and over and over again. There are relationships that are consistent in my life, but what is most consistent in my life is change. I love variety. Like, I love variety. I don't want to do the same thing every day at the same time over and over again. Many people like that life. They like the predictability. They like what they consider that security. And I like a little bit of risk and a lot of variety and some consistency. But it's time for some more variety. And it also is, just like I said, it's time to go to the next level. So my question to you is, how much variety do you need in your life? Just think about that. For some of us, we need a lot of it. And for others, you need less. Then there's those who are somewhere in the middle. If there is a continuum, I'm on the far end of that continuum, closer to like every day being different. Now, every day doesn't have to be different. I usually know what a typical Monday is going to look like. I usually know what a typical Tuesday is going to look like, and blah, 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 and going forward. I don't know what each week is going to look like. I typically work with a small number of clients a month, 10, low end, high end 15. That's even high. 15 is high. It's rare that I work with that many people a month. So, because I pour into my clients, like pour. I mean, every single one of my clients, which is the reason why I like to keep it low to 8 to 10, because every single one of them feels like they're my only client. They can't even tell that I have other clients because I'm just that available and I know how to do it well. And it really boils down to the fact that I just know them well. And I know when they're not going to call me. And I know when they are going to call me. And I also know how to plan out when like a stressful time is coming for them and when I need to clear more of my schedule for them. All of these kinds of things is what I think about up front, so they don't have to. And it's not like I'm meeting with people once a week. That's just not how it works. Sometimes you don't need me in 1 week. And another time you need me 3 times in 1 week. So that's why we have a subscription based practice, because there's no wrong way or right way. Many therapists do it that way. It just didn't work for my lifestyle. It didn't work for the type of clients that I work with. Most of the clients I work with are running multi-million-dollar companies, and they have a lot of decisions to make. And sometimes our life is more stressful than others. And so I give them a foundation early on in the beginning so they can handle things. So they need me less and less and less and less and less. If they want to continue working with me, they can. There are some people who work with me, especially if they're younger, for longer periods of time, because we really have to get that foundation set. And because might be some variety in their life, like a lot of changes in their life, they'll need me through those changes. If you get married and then you buy property and your business grows, and I'm in their life for their life and their business, because at Presidential Lifestyle, we believe that there's just one life. There's not a business life and the home life. There's no work-life balance. There's just a life balance. And we don't even use the word balance. We call it life harmony. And so if you are looking for life harmony, then you need to know what all the components are. What's that formula that makes up you? And that is my job, to help you determine that formula, uncover it, discover it, those kind of words. And then my other job is to help you play that out, maintain it, and then adjust it along the way if it's no longer working, because sometimes it doesn't work anymore. Now, we do this for CEOs, but we also do this for athletes who have a team and they need to become the CEO of their team. Yeah, because if you think about it, like take Osaka, or like what was happening during the Olympics with why. So this is what was happening with Naomi Osaka. This is what was happening with Simone Biles. This happens with a lot of athletes where they feel like they work for their team. right? But it's the other way around. Their team works for them, but people are pulling them and pushing them in different directions. And also the other thing that comes up is that you begin to feel lonely because your team is your team. They are not your friends. And you start to realize that a lot of them will make decisions based on what's right for them, not what's right for you. And so when that hits you, that hurts, even though you know, and you're their product. They're selling you, right? If without you, then there's no income for a lot of them. And that's a lot of pressure, a lot to make, move through. So that's why we work with athletes to help them become the CEO of their team, to help them tame their brain, not just for the work that they're going to do on the field or, on the balance beam, but for the work that they are going to do off of that. It's kind of like show business. We work with some entertainers, but not many anymore. That's a whole nother story. But it's sort of like show business. The sports business is, similar to show business in the sense that it's a business. And when you forget that, you set yourself up for some hurt. But it is a business. And very little of it is game day. I mean, think about if you're a football fan, and I am not, but I'm going to use this analogy sort of. But if you're a football fan, let's just say, how many games does a team have? I'm not going to answer that question. You know that answer better than I do. And then how many days of practice? They're likely practicing a lot more than they're playing, right? And then how many rest days? Yeah. But here's the other days. What about, I call them coordination days. What about coordination days? Days where you have to coordinate things. Now, as the leader, as the CEO, you won't do a lot of those, but you may have to do some press conferences. You may have to, show up and have appearances. You may have to have some meetings when you want to decide whether, Chase or Wells Fargo is going to be your sponsor. So those kinds of conversations have to have, I'll call those coordination days. So you have 3 other days, practice, rest, and coordination days that are vital and important. And those 3 happen a lot more than game days. So yeah, I need to get your head right for game days, but I need to get your head right so that all the other stuff doesn't bring you down either. Because if you think about it, when you're in game, you are in heaven. You are in the flow. Now, if those other components bring you down, it's going to affect your game. Rarely does your game affect those other components. The only reason it would is because those other components have already affected your game. And our job is to get every CEO we work with to the top of their game. And the only way we can do that is to look at your life entirely. Your whole life, not just business or not just game day. Does that make sense? I didn't even plan to say all of that or talk about that, but because of where we're going right now with the company, like kind of what's happening, and kind of wrap back to the Search for Meaning Over Money project. But so that's where I was going. But now that I have this pause, I'm going to shift a little bit, and I'm going to jump right to the Search for Meaning Over Money project right now, because I need to say this. We are so encouraged. Like, remember I was saying in the beginning, I like variety, and I like to change and do things different. Well, this project has been on my mind for 2 years now. And they just won't go away. Like, it's got to happen. I feel like it's a calling. I don't feel like it's not work. It's like when an artist is painting a painting, they may not stay on it. They may not finish that painting immediately. They may start it, walk away, and come back. Or sculpture, film is just the same way. And since this subject is so near and dear to my heart, and because so many of the CEOs we've worked with have said like, yes, 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 yes. And, that the same might be true for athletes, although we haven't talked to a lot of athletes. One of the CEOs we talked to, or actually two of the CEOs we talked to, were very into sports and saw like athletics as the same way you should see life. And one creates technology for athletes. And one of the things I will say that they've said, and that's important, and probably want to talk to more athletes about, is there's a search for meaning over something else. Like usually with athletes, it could be money, but it also could be, medals or trophies. So it's like meaning over medals or meaning over trophies and meaning over whatever comes with being an athlete, and or notoriety, meaning over approval, all of those things. And my friend, when I was at a retreat a couple of weeks ago, and my friend Lisa Nichols, she and I have become new friends. And when I was telling her about the Search for Meaning Over Money project, she was saying like, wow, I could really see this going further, like the search for meaning over other things as well. So then that's my second question to you is, what are you searching for? What is your search for meaning over when you think about it? It could be over degrees. I know a lot of people who put their degrees, their titles, even their family, because just because you love your family doesn't mean that you have meaningful relationships with them. And there may be meaning might be more important to you than family. Now, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, Kanae, nothing is more important than family to you. But I can guarantee you, somebody who doesn't put their family first, and not because they don't love them, because that's not what's most important to them. Now, some people that will switch and family might become more important to them, but it's just not for everybody. Friendship is not important for everybody. Sometimes it's the legacy that's more important than anything. Travel might be more important than anything. And if you want to see the world, if you have a calling on your life, then that calling might be more important than anything else. So let's talk about where the company is going. Where is your company going? What are you shifting to when it comes to the new year? This year is wrapping up now as you listen to this episode. And I'm wondering what your direction is for next year. Are you creating a new product, service? Are you doing things the same? Are you deepening your operations? Are you increasing your marketing? Are you going to spend more time with family, like we were just talking about? Maybe you plan to scale your business more. There's so many things you could be doing, but what have you decided to do? For us, we've decided to definitely, I think scale would probably be the word, but it just really doesn't fit us because our business model is scaled. So one, we've decided to teach Tame Your Brain therapy to other healthcare professionals and practitioners, healers. We have opened that up. So likely in March is when we'll start our next cohort, and there are 3 phases to it. There's 3 levels. And so if we start in March, then we'll do level 2 in April and level 3 in May, and so on and so on. And we probably won't do it. We'll do it twice next year. So that's our thought right now. That's our goal, our target. Then we also have a corporate offering, and that corporate offering is like, have you seen the show Billions? Well, do you know the character Wendy Rhodes? Well, that's kind of the way that you could think of our corporate offering, where each CEO will get a therapist in their office. The CEO's job, the therapist's job, the Tame Your Brain therapist's job is to attend to the CEO. Leadership team would also have access to the therapist, and the support team could too. So there we have 3 levels as well. So if our Tame Your Brain therapist is just working with the CEO, that's one option, or they can have the CEO and the leadership team, another option, which to me, that is the the absolute best option is to have the CEO and leadership team, because it's a lot harder to trickle down the culture and the changes that you want to make and boost employee morale if you're not getting your leadership team in place. And as the CEO, you can only do so much to activate them, but a Tame Your Brain therapist can do all the work that you don't have to do or you don't need to do while you focus on being the visionary, while you focus on bringing in the new developments, the new products, whatever it is your job is that you do as a CEO. So you focus on that, and the Tame Your Brain therapist will focus on making sure that your team is at the top of their game. And so that is what we do for CEOs as well as athletes, because athletes do a lot of training, but what are their teams doing? Are their teams training? Are their teams staying at the top of their game? Are their teams triggered by money? Yeah, this is a good question, and this question has to be answered. And that athlete is not seeing themselves as a CEO of that team, and they are, but they need to see themselves that way. So this is our focus, really focusing on this. And that means we're closing out some of the things we've done in the past. And this podcast being one of them, because we need to open up some more of my time, some more of the budget. And even though that means by closing some of the services that we offer, that also closes down some of the income streams, it just has to happen because we need that energy flowing in a different direction. And then the money will come. The money will come. Just like the money to finish the Search for Meaning Over Money project will come. We're working on it. And here in Vegas, we have some leads, and we also have some in California. And it's just a matter of a couple conversations and getting that. I guess you would consider them a partner. I don't really consider them a sponsor, but a partner to bring on the last of that budget that's needed. So that's really where we are. That corporate offering, which is what we call the Wendy Rhodes offering right now, because it's the easiest way to explain it. But if you put like Wendy Rhodes, Olivia Pope, and the Oracle from the Matrix, that's really what you would get in a Tame Your Brain therapy session. Because yes, you have the therapy, but there's also some intuition that goes into what we do. And so everybody that we hire, not everybody we train, will have this kind of intuition, to have this kind of gut, but anybody who comes onto our team will have this intuition, this gut. And then there is the life part of it. A lot of people just want, when they go and have a business coach, which we're not business coaches at all. We are mental health professionals, and we work with business owners. And because of that, we specialize in business. So I like to make that really clear, because a lot of times people ask that question. I'm wondering if, I didn't write down the 2 questions that I asked you already, but I want to ask you a third question before we wrap up. And you know how I usually in the interviews ask, what is the best advice you've ever received, or the advice you wish somebody would have told you? So I'm going to ask you that question, but more from what is the best advice you've ever received about shifting? Yeah, what is the best advice you've ever received about changing? Maybe that's a better way. What is that best advice you ever received about changing? Or the advice you wish somebody would have told you about changing? Because I'm okay with change. And that's part of what we teach. The very first part of what we teach is to tame your brain for change. But what is the best advice you ever received about change? Or the advice you wish somebody would have told you? Now you can email us at podcast@presidentiallifestyle.com if you are curious about our corporate offering for CEOs or athletes. If you would like to be part of the Search for Meaning Over Money project. Maybe maybe you want to be part of it in a monetary way. Maybe you want to be interviewed. However you want to be a part of it, you can email us. Maybe you want to recommend somebody to be our client or be trained by us as a healthcare professional. Maybe you'd like to be an affiliate. That's a good part. Yeah, you could want to be that. Anyway, there's so many ways to connect. And I would say, go to our website. Of course, if you haven't already, visit our website, because there you'll find up to date what we're doing. I will be writing more blogs since I'm not going to be doing this podcast anymore for a while, but a lot of those hours are going to go towards preparing for the Search for Meaning Over Money documentary. Now we hiring a production company, so there's so much I don't have to do, thankfully. But there's still things that I do have to do. And then some of the time that I'm getting back, because I actually have about 15 hours, not just because I'm not doing this podcast. There's a couple of other things that are closing out too. Some of them have gotten about 15 hours back into my week. So for some of you, you're wondering like, okay, what does that mean exactly? So I used to work about 35 to 40 hours. Well, I used to work 20 hours. And then I started this year, 2021, working about 35, 40 hours, which was a lot for me. And so now I'm backing that out a little bit, and I'm going back to about 20, 25 hours, but I'm going to take 10 of them. So I'll probably go back to working about 30 hours. I think would be good. I think I feel good with 30 hours. So that's where I am. That's my idea of prosperity. If I can work 30 hours a week, I don't feel like, because I love what I do. So some people want that 4-hour work week or whatever the book was called. I think it was that 4-hour work week. I don't want that. I love what I do. I love connecting with my patients and people and my CEOs and my athletes and even training other healthcare professionals. Like, I love doing that. And I don't know what life would be like without it. So I don't want to just do 4 hours of that. I want to do a little bit more. So I love doing podcast episodes. So if you have a podcast and you want me to be on it to talk about taming your brain, then email us at podcast@presidentiallifestyle.com. And, I love doing speaking engagements. So also, if you want to hire us, now this would be different. You won't go to that same spot. You're going to go to presidentiallifestyle.com/hire-Kene. I'll check that. Anyway, it'll be in the show notes, whatever the link is. You know me. Come on. If this is your first time listening, then you're probably like, what? How does she not know? But it's so much in my head. I can't remember all the things. That's why we have assistants and phones and computers and Google Docs and databases. I don't want to remember things. I just want to remember where to go to get the information, which I do. Oh, actually, as we speak, I could just go there and tell you, because I do have my computer right in front of me. That's so funny. Oh, I was right. It's presidentiallifestyle.com/hire-Kene if you want me to come and speak. And when I speak, I'm going to talk about the search for meaning over money and really you getting when I do a talk, I don't give you the whole entire what you need in order to put your, find your meaning, but I do give you the first step in it. I also sometimes talk about leading well, not perfect. That's another thing I talk about. And then there is like, you can hire me to come into your company to speak. And if you're not ready to do the corporate offering just yet, then we do a Tame Your Brain in 30 days. And one of the things that I do is come into your office and teach there. And with your leadership team, we do Control the Controllable live. And it is a leader's guide to gaining control by letting go. I talked about lead well, not perfect, like who you need to be in order to lead effectively. Search for meaning over money, Control the Controllable live. I feel like I'm forgetting one. And there's one more that I teach. It's Your Money BS. And That one is usually for the support team, not the leadership team, because the money BS, the money programming, a lot of times it's not just for people who don't have money. It actually is for people who do too. But the reason why I say that is because a lot of times when a CEO has a support team, they have already gotten to the point where they know what it takes to, what is needed to run a company, and money is what's needed to run a company. But I think the lower you go away from the responsibility of making sure the bills get paid, the less you realize that. And you need to know that every single person in the company. It's kind of like, how in a family, the mom and the dad kind of want to shield the kids from the problems in the household. So they don't tell them what the bills cost. Like, most kids don't know what the light bill is and the gas bill and all the things. They don't know it, but it exists. And parents should tell them that information should be shared so that when they get older, they'll know they had no idea what a gas bill or light bill or rent even or mortgage. They should know those things. And so for a company, for somebody in the support role, they may have no idea what it takes to run the company they work for, but they need to know that. But until they have, but their money BS might be getting in the way. And a lot of people are triggered. And when I say BS, I mean your belief system. I know, but our belief system can be full of BS. So, especially when it comes to money, but also about love too. But this isn't a podcast about love. Or is it? Because did you know that most of us are doing what we do with money so we can get love? Yeah, but that's the old me. I used to talk about that on the Love and Money podcast. So if you've been here since the very beginning with the Love and Money podcast, then, oh my gosh, I love you so much. I do. And I want to stay connected with you. So last thing I'm going to ask is that you join the Search for Meaning Over Money community. It's free. So just go ahead and join. All you got to do, click the link in the show notes. And once you click the link, I'm just making a note that I need to put that link in the show notes. Once you click the link, you'll just give us your email address and use an email address that you will actually pay attention to. Thank you. Your best email address, because we usually put, when we're doing, like sometimes I do the Search for Meaning Over Money masterclass. I do it for free. And if I'm going to do it free, I'm going to post it in that community. It should be my community that gets me for free. I mean, the world should not, right? It should be the people who really are close to me. So that's like one step closer to me, because I can't take any more steps closer to you. Like, this is as close as I can get to you, but you can take more steps and get closer to me. So if you want to continue to have conversations, if you want to know when the Search for Meaning Over Money project is released, if you want to know about the different CEOs in it and follow some of them, because some of them you've probably listened to and heard their interviews. There are some new ones in there. We are sending invitations to some pretty sought after CEOs. So we don't know if they'll accept yet, but we're only doing 10 interviews for this first round. So we're taking some of the people that we've already interviewed, and then we're adding 5 new ones. And of the 5 new ones, those 5 new ones are going to be pretty powerful CEOs. So you want to be part of this, and you're going to love it. And that's all that I want to say, because this episode is getting longer than I thought it would. And I'm not sure why or how, but I feel like I shared everything with you. It's a little jumbled and it's back and forth and here and there, but you have your 3 questions. Answer those questions. And I remember asking you about what you're changing. I remember asking you about, what was the best advice you ever received about change? And then what you are, working on for the end of the year. I don't remember the first question I asked you, because remember, I'm just going off the top of my head, because it's just a conversation you and I are having. And I'm so glad that we had this conversation, because at least I asked you to stay connected with me. At least I told you how we could stay connected. And at least I did I didn't leave without saying goodbye. And it's not like goodbye. It's just like, meet me over here instead of in this place. Make sense? Good. Well, thank you for listening all the way to the end, my prosperity bro. And I will see you in the Search for Meaning Over Money docuseries, right? Yes. So go ahead and join the community, and I'll see you sooner. Thanks for listening all the way to the end, my prosperity bro. I want to stay connected with you. Here are 4 ways. Pick the one that works best for you if you want to stay connected with me. 1, if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. Send them to podcast@presidentiallifestyle.com. I'd love it if you would make a 1 or 2 minute audio message and attach it to an email. That'd be the easiest way for me to get it. Ask me anything about creating a life of meaning over money, and I'll get you an answer. Remember, the email address is podcast@presidentiallifestyle.com. 2, subscribe to this podcast and share it with your friends, because you guys might want to have a discussion about it, especially if they're a CEO who wants to shift from the old American dream to a life of meaning. 3, we try not to have any sponsors on this show unless they are truly in line with our values. I mean, really a good fit. So that means we fund this podcast ourselves. I'd like you to take a look at our resource page to see if there's any products or services that we recommend that are right for you. If not, no worries, maybe later. If so, please use our affiliate link to purchase. Thank you in advance for doing that. You are such an amazing person. Okay, 4 and last. If you want to know what's happening over here at Presidential Lifestyle and you want us to email you the update, then go to presidentiallifestyle.com/blog/now. And you'll see the current updated blog for the week, but you'll also see a link to subscribe to that blog. We can email it to you if you like. That's presidentiallifestyle.com/blog/now. Don't worry, you don't have to remember that link or any links. They're all in the show notes. Oh, and I forgot to say, if you're enjoying this podcast, go ahead and leave us a review and tell us how much you're enjoying it. And now for the legalese. This podcast is not to replace professional counsel. The best advice is from a professional who knows you and your specific situation. The topics discussed in this podcast are general in nature and for informational or entertainment purposes only. We encourage you to meet with a professional that you can discuss your specific situation with. Whether you choose us or someone else, one-on-one counsel is important, whether it's a financial, therapeutic, legal, or other decision. So that's all for now. I'll see you next episode. And remember, you can have wealth in all of its forms. Believe it, and you'll soon see it.